Stunning and brave statement by Trier. The disabled are fully human and capable of love. And I'm awake now, so we can start. How's everyone doing?
Good.
Fantastic.
This week,
Great.
we've got Breaking the Waves by Trier. What a crazy, crazy flick, huh, guys? I can't believe... Is this... I'm just... How much of this do you want me to do? Just the intro?
No, that's
Just
it.
keep
We
going.
can. I
Keep
feel like
going. You're doing great.
This is my whole thing? Okay.
This is my whole thing.
Shuffles papers. Trier back with another Women Are Evil film. I don't know. You don't know.
That is not. This
Is
not women are
God a
opposite.
superstition? Is God a superstition?
Yeah, this is
I know.
literally
I
the
need me
opposite.
some. I know. I need me some besosi.
yeah. Oh my God.
Alright.
Time stamping. I gotta
Okay.
cut that.
Yeah, cut that.
I gotta cut that.
Yeah.
96, Breaking the Waves.
I
Trier.
need some besosi.
Yeah. I'm trying to save Jan.
Question mark.
I'm willing to say this is just a better Ordette. Okay,
It's very different. It's definitely
I mean,
a conversation with Ordette and Sacrifice.
but in the same. But
Go on.
in the, in the fact of is she actually the R word? The the answer is maybe, probably not, right?
I think definitely not.
Because-
Because kind of the joke.
is because just like the guy from Ordette, he's all, everyone's like, this guy's schizo, he's crazy, take your meds, guy, and then it actually,
I don't think they had meds.
he actually did have, maybe some sort of legitimate connection with God, and a greater connection with God than all of these so-called believers with their non-bells. No bells in these churches. Yet she
I
likes
was
the
saying
bells.
the actress. I was saying the actress
Oh,
herself,
Or it was Emily Watson.
Emma Watson.
Emma
Emma Watson was great in this film. I cannot lie. How did she go from this to Harry Potter?
Wait, she was in Harry
More
Potter?
like this to Synecdoche, New York. Was that our last pod?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was our last pod.
We're on Emily Watson.
We're on that. Dude, I'm down to keep you. I love her. She's
so
actually
good.
so insane. I feel like she's probably one of my favorite
She's got a rockin' mommy
female
body
actresses.
these days.
You guys just like her because she has big eyes.
She does have big eyes.
You
But
guys
you
just
know,
like
there-
these big-eyed actresses.
There
That's the one
is
that Bergman
Alita
casts
Battle
for
Angel.
everything.
there's a podcast where Jacob is on record calling out someone else's fascination with an actress for
Yeah.
being solely on the basis of their big eyes. But I forget what actress and what podcast.
Or what person
It's definitely Anna Darma's.
It's the
Yeah.
it's the Bergman girl.
It's the old Doe
The
versus
Bergman
Fox
girl. I feel like-
dichotomy.
Yeah,
I feel like
Dovey
nobody. I
Fox.
feel like any of Bergman's.
Doe, yeah.
Women.
United States v. Doe v. Fox.
Why is my internet so bad right now? Show me the thing.
Listen, I want to read the room a little bit. I
Please.
think we watched this. We're thinking, oh, it's gonna be Trier. It's gonna
Liv
be.
Ullmann.
It's gonna be high analysis discussion.
Well, I just want to let you know that when I came into it, I actually forgot that this
Wait,
is a Trier
who-
movie.
Wait,
That's powerful.
who's first? Who's never seen this film before?
Brody.
Okay,
Steven.
so Brody,
Raise your hand if
Steven,
you're
and
an
Jacob have raised their hands for those at home.
Yeah.
John and I are veterans.
Yeah, this is my third. This is my third. I will say
This
this
is my
time
fourth.
I'm okay. I'm kind of. I want to ask a question. What did people think of in the first third? What did those
Oh
who
my
first
God.
watched this think of Jan?
So awesome.
Like,
Yeah,
what
but-
did you think of Jan? Like, how did you perceive Jan? How did you
I didn't
these,
perceive him as a good
kinda
guy.
Crazy.
I thought he was a little suspect, for sure.
Nah, I only very briefly for like the first, like literally the first 5 to 10 minutes was a little suspect, but after that, after any like amount of time spent between just he and Bess, also that when he was like, "Are you sure you want to do it here?" Like his hesitation at the wedding, at the bathroom in the wedding,
Yeah.
his hesitation immediately helped to pivot from like being skeptical of Jan to thinking, all right, he's at least decent. He's a decent dude. He's not just a scum.
He's
something.
definitely decent tier. I don't think he's that good of a guy, and I never thought he was that good of a guy because he still did it in the bathroom. That's just a no. You tell her no. You say no. I'm not gonna
Why?
do
You're
that.
gonna say no to
I
Emily
don't. I don't
Watson?
think. I don't think it's ethically that insane to do it or anything.
It doesn't feel. It's not. It is an extremely powerful scene in which, first of all, the first half of this movie makes my face contort nonstop.
Yeah,
I think
it's-
it's so powerfully made. It's so fucking good. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
It makes
crazy
me smile
uncomfortable.
so much. It makes me anyway. The sex scene in the bathroom when you're up close on her face, dude. It's obviously we're saying the performance is crazy. Dude, her performance is out of this world. But when they're having sex in the bathroom, I'm like kind of grimacing, like, oh, is it? I don't know if she is it. Blah, blah, blah. It is an unsettling. Like, I don't know if this was good or not. But then she comes out and she smiles with the girl, and you're relieved.
Yeah. That part was so good. I think this movie, out of like almost any Trier movie, does this like has like such insane economy, like emotionally. Like he like really, really only shows exactly what you need to understand and feel it, and then like move on. And like that, I don't know. That's a good example. It's like, I don't know, so good. But yeah, I was gonna say the first time I watched this movie, the reason why I brought up the question because the first time I watched this movie, I was really suspicious of Jan, and I was kind of disturbed. Like the first time we saw him on that oil rig with his buddies, like the contrast between like her world and his world, and
When
like
they're playing
like,
slap ass and stuff.
Yeah. I was like
But he's not
more
super into it. But yeah. But
No, yeah. But I thought I was way more like disturbed and like scared of him like fucking her over, which is funny because now watching it this time, I know what happens, and this time I was way more. I feel like I liked him, and I feel like I understood him way better this time, and I thought he was like a way better. Like I think this time I recognized that he's not just because the first time I watched it, I just thought he was just like some dude who's marrying her and like doesn't know what he's getting into, realizing like who she is and stuff. But then this time watching it, it's like he's actually like the only person who gets how good she is. And there's like a couple scenes where he explicitly says it, where he's like, he tells his sister, he's like, you don't understand how like she's better than all of us or something.
Yeah, she just wants it all.
Yeah, which is like, I don't know. I feel like it made the second half a lot more. I feel like I was focused on the wrong things the first time I watched it because of how I was viewing it. Like this time because I viewed their love as like mutual and going both ways, and as this kind of very, very good thing both ways, that when what happens, it like is, I don't know, it was much more clear to me why what was happening, and et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I've always been a bit of the Steven camp where I'm sus of him in the beginning, but things basically clear up when they are in the chapter Life with Jan, when they're having sex and being happy and stuff like this. I start to really come around to him. But after this viewing, more so than in the past, I finally see that it's not just Bess in the imagery of breaking the waves, where she stands firm against torrential, waves and she breaks them. It is Bess and Jan in an embrace that is breaking the waves and going against the screen. It is their love. Jan is a great man.
Mm-hmm.
Great man.
The movie definitely prejudices you against Jan and the oil crew in the beginning, just because it opens with Bess being like interrogated on why she wants to get married with an outsider. You know.
Yeah. It like holds them up to a certain expectation of like
Mhm.
bringing something positive into their. It's like a Babette's Feast situation or something.
Right, but then he comes and he's like this, just like, he looks kind of like a schmucky American guy, and his buddies are all like kind of dipshits at the wedding, you know. So the whole time you're also like associating that with Jan. Um, I don't think that dropped. I mean, the bathroom scene is relatable. I'm not going to get into any nitty gritty details, but we all have been in a situation where
We've all been there.
we've all to put it succinctly, we've all been there, right? And you're just kind of like, right? So that's not when the suspicion, I guess, dropped off for me. And even, I guess, like pretty far into it, where you had, crap, what's her name? The
Sister?
sister-in-law?
Yeah,
I forget.
we'll just call her sister.
The sister nurse character,
Shorty.
when she's doing her speech, and she's kind of, it seems like they're
The
not,
speech
they're-
at the wedding.
yeah, their culture isn't really, they don't really, it seems like they're stiff upper lip, you know, and so everyone's being like silent while she's just trauma dumping on everyone, and Jan's even, he looks a little uncomfortable, you know, he's like, he looks kind of uncomfortable. So it's like the whole time you're like, is this guy, is he just here to kind of snag Bess and run, you know? But then, you know, as time goes on, it becomes clear that he actually loves her for her, and he understands, like you guys said, what he's getting into, and like at the dinner conversation. What else was I going to say? I don't know. But
What about,
yeah, I guess
what about
the
when he takes
first-
the call on the
the
rig?
first third was really moving. Yeah, that's all I'm prepared to say.
All your fair to say. By the way, sister's name is Dodo. I apologize for just calling her sister. She deserves better. And what about when he makes the call on the rig and it's like, I love you, dude. When she says, you know, she's like hesitant to say I love you, and then she does, and she starts crying and blah blah blah. You're
Yeah.
not sold by then?
I was.
No,
I
I'm
just.
sa- no. I'm saying yeah. I was sold. Like I'm agreeing with you guys that I'm not. I didn't watch the whole thing. Think that Jan is suspect. Like it became clear that he is, is a good guy, right? Pretty early on, because he has the patience to deal with Bess's quirks while nobody else does, right? Like when he's leaving for the oil rig, and she's just like, no! And she like runs and like opens the helicopter door and has this total like bruh moment in front of everyone. He's just like, it's okay, I'll be back, like, you know.
Yeah.
And you know he's visibly shaken, but the whole time he's basically the whole time Jan is breaking Bess's waves. Okay, they're breaking against him because he's, you know, as a man, he's supposed to be a rigid object, which the chaotic forces of femininity cannot, you know,
Agree wholeheartedly, yeah.
destruct. Okay, and that's, listen. A lot of you guys at the beginning were criticizing me for even perceiving that anyone else could perceive this film as being anti-woman. Okay? But when you have Bess every 2 minutes on screen, screaming at the top of her lungs, hitting people, doing crazy shit, I mean, what do you think someone's going to watch and think about that?
Well, Dodo's obviously based. You know?
Yeah.
She's just like a more kind of level-headed, more analytical kind of. The whole time I'm like, the whole time I felt like I was on Dodo's side, because I just want to say something really quick, which is, at no point did I ever feel convinced by their love until basically the very end, when he
Whoa.
until Jan got resurrected. the whole
Took a
time
miracle.
I'm thinking to myself, like, God,
Impossible.
like, God, this schizo lady, like, she doesn't know what she's gotten herself into. She's so naive. It's so sad, right? Like, I'm the whole time.
How did you perceive like her praying? Like she's just like total
Smeagol
So
mode.
it's,
case.
I mean, so it's not so.
Smeagol.
In,
I'm just laughing at that.
She's
in
like
some
freaking Golem.
in some sense, I did see it as kind of just this crazy woman, you know.
Oh, so you were sold on just schizo nonsense
I was
until the resurrection. So, but you didn't see. Did
No,
you
but she
see,
obviously-
but deny the relationship between her doing the things and Jan improving?
Yeah, the movie
clearly
wants you to believe that she is actually communing with
Yeah.
God, right?
Yeah,
it's
so
like-
so you're right that when I did see these things start to happen, I was getting a little bit like
Like she jerks off the bus guy and then Jan improves.
yeah, at that point I was getting a little bit like, you know, like, is there something going on here? But I wasn't yet for sure, right? Until I saw that man walk again.
took a miracle.
It took a
You were a
goddamn
doubter.
miracle.
You had to see Christ walk on water.
I had to see Christ
Well, you
walk
had
on
to
water.
see-
He had to watch
What
his
is
man
it?
get
You know,
jerked
devil.
off.
I had to get jerked off, and there's a few things that people noted as, especially after the wedding. The wedding made it look like I'm like
Fuck you.
the wedding. I was like, man, this. I was like,
fuck you.
I'm
I was
like, man, this
confused.
wedding
Hold on,
is-
hold on.
is-
I'm jaded.
Oh, Brody.
Like,
Brody,
I'm
what'd
with
you
bro.
s-
I'm.
What'd Brody
Go
say?
this wedding
I'm
is
kinda
like
with you,
bumming
Brody.
me out. Like, I don't know, like this, like especially that speech. It's something about that felt something like was undercutting
From
about
Dodo?
that from Dodo. You
Yeah.
know, she was like, well,
don't
you,
know him.
you, I don't know him. You stole
If you, yeah, and if you, oh shit,
Oh.
Which wedding are you talking about here?
and
What?
wait,
Wait.
and if you
You
fuck
talking
with
about
her,
you talking about the on-screen wedding, or are you talking about Troy's wedding?
I was kind of disappointed. It's fine.
I think I'm with Brody. I'm not trying to. I don't know if I'm trying to cut. I don't want to cut anyone off, but I agree. I think there's a huge focus on the sexuality and love making that kind of feels like a redirect or whatever, and makes it suspect. And yeah, the life with Jan chapter is not in the beginning, especially when they're having the sex and stuff, and it's kind of you're still sus, and he keeps giving her looks where he's trying to kind of sort out, and he's just appreciating her. But when he takes her to the movies.
Yeah,
And he's
the movie
watching her
scene.
watch the
That's
movie.
true.
And dude, her face is unreal, and he is so happy for her.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
I think the real confirmation is the phone call where at first it's like, oh, is he just trying to meet this obligation because this crazy high upkeep woman is like waiting in him,
Yeah.
But then the conversation on the phone and he seemed I love him.
No, because he says when she says it's the way he reacts when she says that she loves him, and he like smiles and stuff and does a little rocking back and forth or something, and it's like totally unseen by her or anything. It's like very like private receiving. I feel like the imposition of the phone call and not being able to see each other and have like his reaction be unobserved, by her is like important to like the legitimizing of his,
I think the people we're most skeptical of aren't really Jan, to be honest. It's just the friends, especially the first friend that comes home before Jan is injured or anything like that.
Puts his hand or whatever.
Yeah, and she comes home or he comes home, and she's like all bummed. She's like, "Where's Jan?" And it's just this guy. And I don't know about you guys, but I was feeling like I felt like there was an undertone at that time of like some sort of potential sexuality or like infidelity. Not that it was going to happen, but that the friend being home when Jan's away and like the language and there was like an undertone of like, oh gosh, like, is there going to be some sort of infidelity on the basis of how they're apart from each other, whether it be with this friend or someone else or something? I was worried about that, but I was a little skeptical of that friend in particular. And then, of course, the whole time the friends, until the end, I think you raise an eyebrow at them. I think it's like, just how good are they? Are they just good old boys, or are they like, is there something insidious here? Like, for instance, you can imagine an unfolding of the film where they end up going, where she goes when Jan's incapacitated. She takes a boat not to that scary oil rig, but to their oil rig. I'm not saying that this would be the same movie or a good movie, but it could have unfolded such that she goes there and has sex with those friends to bring Jan back to life. It'd be totally different, of course, but like I was primed to worry about that potential. You know what I'm saying? Whereas Jan, I felt pretty solidly he's good. Basically, after 10 minutes, I was like, this guy's pretty good. It's just a question of how good. You know,
I think the casting was pretty perfect for him as well. He's the guy who's in the he's Will Turner's dad in Pirates of the Caribbean, right?
Yeah,
dudes.
But
dude,
he
he's
just he has that
He's
expression.
in like every Trier film.
He has that
Dune.
expression where he's like, whatever, the perplexed like mouth half open, like raised eyebrow. He just has that nailed so hard, and all those scenes where he's where he's talking to her, or he's like showing his love for her, he's like making that expression, as she's like this mysterious, this like enigmatic being, with all of her like weird quirks and her religiosity and stuff, but he's just like receiving it with that like look. And but you could feel that like his, I don't know, maybe it's not a curiosity, but it is he's enamored with her, right? And not just as an oddity, but like he feels like the pull,
Yeah. I feel like not just like the enamored thing. I feel like at any given time, even with like, when he's like around her family and like her church and stuff, you can just see him like perceiving everything. And like, he's like kind of constantly just like perceiving, drinking it in, thinking about it.
Yeah.
And then he's like, he honestly like doesn't talk very much at all during the whole film. Like, I don't know, he never seems any, I don't know, he's kind of, I feel like a lot of like who he is and what you think about him is going on internally, which he like, I don't know, does an incredible job of.
If I die, it will be because love cannot keep me alive.
Yeah, well, I mean, and that's one thing is that, when I had all these mild reservations about him, I wasn't like fully convinced. And even to be fair, I was never 100% on board with like this guy's just straight up evil, because obviously when he fucked up his head, he's filled to the eyes with drugs. He doesn't know what he's saying.
Evil in head.
Yeah, evil in head. Please let me die.
Kill me.
Yeah.
Kill me.
But even then, like when he was being a bit evil in those situations, I'm like, what the fuck, Like this guy is bad. Bad news. This guy.
Well, that's kind of epic. I think it still makes for an epic viewing if you're sufficiently doubtful, and then
it makes, because I think you have to. You can't take like what he's. I feel like, all right. So this viewing, this goes into another thing I was going to say earlier, which is, well, I'll say what I was going to say earlier because then it leads into it. But basically, like this time viewing it, the first time I viewed it, every time she prayed and she does like the God's voice or whatever, I just perceived it as like, okay, yeah, it's just like real, and it's just that is God, like
that is
whatever,
the voice
talking
of God
or something. But then this time, I feel like scene to scene when she's praying, I felt differently about it. There's certain times when she's praying where it feels more. There's like a lot of subtlety to the way in which she does it and what she's saying and why that like make you doubt it more or less. And there's ones where like it feels undeniable, and then others where you're like, I don't know anymore. And I think that it's the same with Jan, where it's like, I feel like you can't just perceive that what he's asking her to do as being some kind of weird, who can know the mind of God. He's saying this and asking her to do this. It's like, I think that like there has to be some level of doubt in order for her doing it. Because I don't know, if you just totally 100% believe it's some like thing that God is indirectly asking her to do through Jan, then it's like, okay, well, she has to do it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like you have to be in a position of doubt as a viewer to like have the power of her doing it be as powerful as it is, because she believes more than you do or something like that.
Yeah, I was like never convinced until basically the very end, the final basically saving of Jan where he's walking again and stuff. Like, I was not convinced that she was talking to God at all through any of the supposed miracles, you know, or like her, you know, all these things coming true or like to fruition, you know, she's praying for him to come home. He gets fucked up and comes home. All of these acts before the last one, I thought were within the realm of like just a, you know, just like a perverse, you know, kind of, you know, just coincidence coupled with like a potential for like kind of this, you know, I am God type thing where she's not communicating with God every time she's talking. Instead, it's like this potential tragedy, disaster of like putting your words for the voice of God. And had the ending not been, we'll call it like relatively positive, you know, positive or whatever, you know, hopeful or something like that. Or we'll call it miracle. The ending like really does support the ends of miracle or something. Had that before that point and had that not been reached or something like that, I would have not at any point believed in like the miracle of or her actual connection with God or any of this. You know, it would have felt like just a tragic misreading of things, like a very, yeah. And I don't know. That's all.
You thought she was, a stupid girl.
Yeah, basically.
You're a very stupid girl.
Stupid girl, Bess. Quick Stellan. This was also not his debut, but he was an essential no one also at the time.
It's crazy.
Can we talk? Can you guys, for the boys who know more? Can you talk about the whole Dogma 95? Because this is his first. This is his first shit, right?
So this is his first. So he found. Let's get into it. So he does Dogma 95, Manifesto, Vow of Chastity with Winterberg.
Yeah.
And then this is the first film he makes after that. But
Sorry. Dogma 95, is this some sort of a
so
challenge?
him and Winterberg start a
Challenge.
sort of movement, film movement in Denmark, and then, you know, it goes Mr. Worldwide, called Dogma 95, where you adhere to what's called the Vow of Chastity. And it's like a set of rules, but the general scope
No jump
is
scares.
the general scope is like everything needs to be real. So like all lighting needs to be practical, meaning like lighting needs to come from actual sources of lighting that make sense in the film. So like if you have a lamp at the bedside, that's your source of lighting. You can't bring in lights.
Mm-hmm.
No CGI, no filming in locations that are not the real locations. So like if you're claiming that you're filming on a London corner, you need to actually be on that London corner. No film, like there's a bunch of rules, but the whole idea is like no Hollywood bullshit, like everything real or whatever. Now this film does not adhere to the rules. There's extremely elaborate lighting, but it's made so as to make it kind of look Dogma-esque and naturalistic. But the lighting, John can maybe talk about this. The lighting in this film is fucking crazy. Also, they're filming off location. There is some CGI, obviously, and music. Right, there's music that is non-diegetic.
But I feel like the purpose. So Winterberg is. I haven't actually seen any of Trier's films that actually follow all of the rules. Which
he only has one, and it's
the Idiots, right?
Yeah, which comes after Breaking the Waves.
Yeah,
in this Golden Hearts trilogy.
Yeah, it's kind of funny that he never. He never actually totally commits because Vinterberg is way more actually committed to doing it. The Celebration, I believe, is a totally Dogma 95 film. But the kind of purpose of it is this whole thing of like they talk about like purifying film or something, like removing as many like having as few things as possible to work with, which I think Trier obviously. I think one of the main things is the you have the camera. It's filmed like documentary-esque. It's all like handheld, and it all looks incredibly realistic at all times. And then it is edited not for continuity, and so it's like basically there's drawn a very clear line between the film and what is being filmed. And what is being filmed never looks staged, but you're constantly aware that it is being filmed of the other side of the camera, and so that this like allows for as little like on the viewer's part as little assumption of the people behind the camera meddling with what's in front of the camera, so to speak. And so there's kind of an assumption of what is you're being seen is real because there's nothing indicating that there is this meddling happening. And I think that's kind of I think that as far as what I can tell from Trier's other films and how he plays with this, Melancholy in particular is kind of like a further progression of how he like treats this idea. Is that like he treats it as I think that he's not actually interested in totally losing the meddling aspect. And the imposing of the like director's will or something, and having it be clear that like artistic choices are being seen by the audience. I think he actually wants to exploit the power of having no meddling and having it be clear, and the contrast is when he does meddle and has these title cards with contemporary music and extremely they're like these map painting overlaid things that are constructed. You get like the maximal effect out of that. Like when you see something like that similar in like a Hollywood, like Wizard of Oz or something, it's not the same. It's not being, There's no contrast of this real versus totally doctored thing. And you're able to, I think his main interest is like basically just maximizing the effect of both. And I think this is probably the film that he does it the best, when he where he does it the most, or when he does the most extreme. I think he does it like kind of more subtly in other ones, but this is like when he's like, it's real, or it's like, here's this piece of music, etc., whatever.
Yeah, and in this case, I think there's like a clear, like the cinema verite documentary style filmmaking contrasted with the hyper dramatic storyline. And he talks about how like if it had been made in a kinematic style, it wouldn't have worked the same way. Like it would have felt so much more superficial, even though like surface wise, the presence of the cinema verite style is more kind of in your face a little bit.
Which you wouldn't be able to suspend your disbelief.
It allows you to suspend disbelief much more.
Well, that's something that. Sorry.
Quick note for the Dogville heads is Dogville, although the most artificial and least Dogma 95 is, I think, actually spiritually like the end game of the Dogma idea, which is like there's all these rules, but the fundamental approach is like story and character is king, and like.
Well, I think, yeah, it's like,
about upping the superficial to max so as to purely isolate the characters in the story.
Yeah, I mean, I guess this is like I think that this is not necessarily like saying you're wrong, but that this is like a further clarification of like what it is. Should we usher Steven back now that I'm not going to reference Dogville directly anymore?
Yeah. Oh, is that why he left?
I think
I think about
Steven.
We talked about how similar.
I was gonna say something.
Oh, you said you want Steven back to say it.
Well, because I want his 8 children.
Listen, okay, Steven's back finally.
Wait, Steven, did you leave because of Dogville?
Did you left because we mentioned Dogville, right?
No, I had to pee, and I hope my mic picked up all of it because I'm so loud.
Okay, so let me. Okay, listen. So I think that it's not just that it prioritizes story and character, but that it prioritizes what is like. Jan is a perfect example of this, and I was saying this earlier, where it's like Jan doesn't say much at all during the film, and much of what is going on is internal, and this is just viewed all the time, and he's like a real person by fact of you just looking at him, and he's a real person, and that this is like a unique quality to film, or like, I don't know, I mean, not necessarily, but like, I don't know, you see like a portrait, like a painting, like that is a real fucking person, but but like the point being that like when you're purifying it or whatever with like the Dogma 95 stuff, it's like, it's not just story and character, like it's like story and character plus, those are the thing, and then you have like these real actors doing these things, you have real people in front of the camera expressing emotions, and like that is, and you're capturing that and whatever, and you're editing it, and I don't know, so I don't know if my clarification is clear.
I'm lost on that clarification because it still feels like the spiritual purpose of Dogma is to isolate and focus on the character and the narrative and avoid gimmicks and tricks.
Well, the character
Like,
and the
to
narrative
detract from
and what
those
it
things.
is to just like put a human face on a screen, like
You're saying like it's character, narrative, and the meta?
No, never
Like
mind.
bring attention to...
No, it's just it's something. It's like something. I'm saying something like stupid simple about like if you're gonna go.
Sounds like character.
If you're gonna go, you're gonna take a camera and you're gonna go film your mom washing the dishes, and she doesn't
Ew.
like interact with the camera. It's like what are you seeing in front of the camera? And like when you watch this, what is this? You play this back and it's like emotional for some reason. It's like why, and it's like trying to not obstruct the things that get in front of that, like does that make sense? Like what I'm
Just
the point
bringing
I'm
more
making?
focus to what's on the other one side of the camera and not the other.
Yeah,
Like that's all there is what's on the other side, not...
Yeah. That's probably, yeah.
And then
Yeah.
and then by that, just to clarify, like if it were to be overly, lit, kinematic, aestheticized here, then it becomes more about that than like just purely the subject itself. Therefore, there's
It
something
becomes behind the camera.
yeah, there's something that's actually being taken away when you're adding so much stuff. Am I getting the gist?
Yeah,
think-
you're losing
yeah.
you're losing the power of because it's like as soon as you put like whatever huge Hollywood image here that's like beautiful, whatever, considered beautiful is beautiful, next to this very just kind of real thing, it's like you muddy or dull the realness of what it is, and like you can't have that unless you kind of really believe and see it and perceive and feel it as real or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Well, what about...
And slightly more surface level to the Dogma point of like you can make bad characters and narrative more appealing to an audience by dressing it up. And like I think part of their idea was like no dressing allowed. Like you have to actually make a good film with a good story and good
Yeah.
characters. You're
What-
not
what
allowed to
about-
make it look beautiful to like appease
What-
audiences.
What about
superficially.
the filter that they're putting on at the start? And basically, it might go through the whole film, maybe not always, but the pretty overbearing filter that's on the color, the grading of everything, and not only that, I wanna say specifically, this is a case where clearly there's a lot of behind the camera intruding on it because it's a very clear choice to make everything graded that way, under that filter. But it's not. I don't think that it detracts from the subject the way that a more conventional example of like a super dressed up room where it's like I think you can think of more conventional examples where the more you introduce from behind the camera, like more behind the camera vibes, detracts from the realness of the subject or what's in front of the camera, you know. But I think there's some cases like this one where they don't interact in this antagonistic way at all.
Okay, so so something I was going to say earlier is that something that is very clear meddling, so to speak, is editing. And I would say that like the way that it looks is partially part of the editing, where it feels like this was raw captured and then it was edited, you know, and that it was edited, and the way it would look different if like if they're like adding things to the image or something, like they do in the title cards or something, or like I don't know, something.
Well, the filter. I mean, that's a pretty significant addition, isn't it? Like the intro.
Well, no, I'm saying that it's a significant addition in the same way that editing is a significant meddling, and it's not like hiding from the fact that it's editing it. That like the actual capturing of something is like, I mean, because then you just get into the fact that there's the imposition of a camera. Like there's nothing that says that putting a filter or not a filter is more real or something, you know, because at the end of the day, you're saying this square, you know, this rectangle that I'm pointing at, and the lensing does things to way optically what's going on is already an imposition. And I feel like the filter is actually not that far. I feel like the filter is like the filter or whatever it is that they're doing. It might be something that they're doing in post, actually, like in the processing of the film. But the whatever it is that's happening is like, in my mind, it's not that different from just the fact that you're just pointing a camera at something in the first place, and that this in itself is meddling. This is an imposition. This is not just observing something.
2 quick notes. One, yeah, right. Like the imposition is strong with the whole cinema verite style, but what the imposition is to imply is that it's like real life. We're just filming there, blah, blah, blah. Also, just on the comment on the film, so they shot handheld Super 35, which, if I'm not mistaken, is kind of it's a grainier, It's just a smaller.
It was very grainy
type of look.
It was very grainy.
Then they scanned the film. They did a a scan to tape, and then a tape back to film to even amp up this look.
Yeah.
So that's another commentary just on, it does have like a very distinct kind of grainy, like a weird half digital, half film look, but mostly film.
Mm-hmm.
Can we talk about two things?
Yes.
So first, at the beginning, someone compared this to, I think Troy, you said it was obviously kind of in dialogue with Ordette and the sacrifice.
Of which we can only talk about Ordette.
But have we considered that it's also, well, not in dialogue because this came out before, but it's a little similar to Amour in theme, you know?
Yeah.
And that could be interesting to talk about. Secondly, we need to talk about Dr. Dick, Dr. Richardson.
Dr. Dick.
The fact that he is highly repressed. Okay?
Yeah.
And he's jealous.
He's willing to follow Christ.
Okay.
He's using being a doctor as cover for being evil.
So
like
true.
many doctors.
Although he has me on his side when he's like, all doctors, he has me on his side when he's like, I'm not like your old doctor. I don't believe in prescribing medications for what's totally normal and human.
Uh-huh.
I'm sitting there, I'm watching that, I'm thinking, based. This guy, good guy.
Yeah, that definitely is like a first like
woman.
That's definitely the first like huge appeal towards like, oh, I should trust this guy. Which is like the first like beckoning in.
He got me on his side
you should listen to him.
With that. Well, it was like kind of like I was like kind of half on his side. So I'm like, oh, this guy's kind of like a new agey kind of guy, you know? Which I guess maybe taking meds is a little
young doctor.
Also, you can argue that it's also new agey, but you know that aside, this guy's hip, he's cool, you know. And then when he got offered pussy, he was like, no pussy, please.
Pussy.
Right? He was like, no pussy, please. And then when he was like, no pussy, please, then I was fully on his side. I was like, this guy is the realest dude in the room. And then, but then, as the moment he found out that everyone else got best OC except him, and then
You got
I was,
mad
and then
jelly.
I'm like,
Dude.
and then I was like, is
Seeing this
he
is-
right now just like mad that he didn't get any pussy? You know, is he sad about that? Is that what's going on here?
I think he is, but in
Well, I'm
like a
with him
very,
until he tells her
very
he loves
like
her.
roundabout way. I don't know.
Yeah,
not in
he
like
tell-
not in such a direct way. I feel like.
As soon as he says,
tells her
"I
that
love
he
you,"
loves her.
it's over.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so, dude. I love how she's like, how she reacts.
Do you usually get
It's like,
so
take your
involved
hands off me.
with your patience?
Yeah.
I can't do that.
Oh yeah, did she?
That I
she
mean, it
owns
kind of
him.
took me out of the
Stupid
scene a little
girl.
bit because sometimes in the in these films where the this actress is supposed to be kind of simple, right? And then they just add like 30 IQ points to her in that scene, and then subtract it in the next scene.
So wrong. You're Listen, this is to the Dodo point Brody's making. To your point, Bess is pure, unadulterated, good woman, and Dodo is just polluted. Dodo's
Dodo's
epic. We love
Dodo-
Dodo. She makes a redemption, but she wants to give Bess meds for being pure, unadulterated, normal. Bess
Dodo's
wants to stop her.
Yeah.
Dodo's just
But
like
you cannot
bitter.
blame Dodo.
She's bitter.
I
and
can't
jaded.
blame
Well,
Dodo.
I don't
She's
think
bitter,
Dodo
but
is doing
she's-
anything wrong.
She's
in,
acting-
a
she's also
subjective
acting
sense.
normal.
She is. I feel like the way in which she acts and reacts and everything to her situation is, I don't know, totally. I don't know. Like she might want certain things that. I don't think whatever. She's never like malicious or anything like that.
No.
She is like
Dodo rules.
she is good. Yeah.
It is how
Dodo's
I would have
cool,
felt.
good and reasonable, but she's polluted by the world. She acts like a quote unquote reasonable person and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know,
Well,
she's the mix. You've got Jan of the world and Bess of pure purity.
I think so. Here's something though: is like I think she. I don't know. I know what you're saying. I think I agree with what you're saying, but she like also. I mean I don't know. I think she, as a surrogate for the viewer, experiences the same amount of doubt literally anyone would about Bess's situation as she's like
For sure.
acting the way that she is. You know what I mean?
100%. Despite the implication that she killed her husband, I'm with Dodo.
That she, is that a real implication?
No.
Oh, okay. I was like,
the
I am
what? I was like,
heartbroken
did I
for
miss
her.
something?
I mean, much in the same vein as Bess, Dodo's just acting normally given her circumstances. If I were Dodo, I would be pretty freaking bitter and jaded as well.
Yeah, I was on Dodo's
Especially
side.
living that small world.
I would have married Dodo in this movie, and then had I gotten hit on the head with a pipe, I don't think she would have saved me with her sacrifice.
So true.
To be fair,
Really pussy.
so who knows? Maybe I got the wrong choice here, but up until the last 30 seconds of the movie, till I saw the bells, I was full Dodo pilled.
Yeah, you would have been like, I hope you would die.
I
Or
mean,
I hope
it
you
is.
would let me die.
I was like, yeah. Well, there's a few things. Like, one, man, did I hope Jan was gonna die. Tons of times I was like, man, I hope this guy dies. You know, like, this is terrible.
That's
I didn't
base.
want to see all this fucking shit go down. And then when fucking Bess died, I was like, oh, thank God, she's fucking. Oh, now Jan could just die. Bess could just die. This all just could be fucking over. Please, just let this end. You know. I've been here for 2.5 hours. Come on. Just kidding. One other thing. I thought the music between the chapter cards was pretty fun. It was since I came in knowing literally zero I didn't know when this movie was made. I knew nothing. Okay, and
You're like this.
I
Pure.
I was
pure and
like,
good.
I was like, oh damn, is this movie old as hell? Because you see all this like hyper grain, and then the setting. I was like, oh, this is a pretty old flick, and then it starts playing ASAP Rocky.
ASAP Rocky.
And I was like, oh shit, this is
So true. Actually, that is so sad. That's what that is the like touch point. Like for me when that song comes on, I'm like, whoa, ASAP Rocky song.
ASAP Rocky song. And then when they started
so
playing ASAP
sad.
Rocky, I was like, oh shit, this is actually not that old, And then, but it's even worse because whenever I hear contemporary music, or particularly pop music of that era, because it's not even contemporary to us anymore, I just think of Guardians of the Galaxy, which is a little bit depressing. You know what I mean?
I'm with. I know what you mean.
Like,
I mean, it's crazy.
yeah.
They're actually trying to do the same thing.
Yeah, they're trying to do the same thing.
They're trying to make the movie relevant. They're like, Trier's like, dude, this movie's boring as shit. We got to throw in a David Bowie song.
Yeah, we gotta
Like,
throw in. We gotta throw an ASAP
We got to
Rocky.
throw in something hip and cool to sell it to the.
It's like a fast-paced
studios.
camera movement with the song with Freebird solo playing.
Yeah.
with Bess getting raped to death. That'd be how Guardians of the Galaxy would do this movie.
Well, they would just have like
So,
dancing.
yeah.
They
I
would have-
can't change.
Dude,
Well,
the new,
well,
the
in
new
this
Guardians of the
case-
Galaxy is unironically like that. Like it's like it has some of the worst like violence porn thing. Like there's like there's like literally the cutest raccoon they could have possibly
dancing.
made. The cutest like just scientifically the cutest possible thing they could make. And then they like torture it on screen and like stick it with needles.
Well, they also.
and then like Creep by Radiohead starts playing. That's literally the movie.
that's
I
It's
don't remember
it's
that one. I
so
haven't seen
bad.
it, but I was thinking like it's the scientifically cutest thing imaginable, dancing and doing something fun and
Scientifically
being oblivious, while Bess would be getting raped to death in the back, right? And he's just dancing, having fun, while Bess
How about-
is exploding to a million pieces.
How about the raccoon? The cutest thing, imagine scientifically, the cutest thing ever made is raping Bess.
Dude, quick shout out
Scientifically cutest
to
rape
Udo.
scene.
Yeah, Udo. Dude, that's
Dude,
what I was
Udo
literally
is
just
so
Googling.
good.
I was literally just barely looked him up on Letterboxd because it was.
He's
yeah,
another Trier guy.
Yeah, what
Udo
an
and Stalin have both appeared
absolutely
in-
terrifying. He's like such a perfect representation of like like just like violent, like
Evil
man,
bad.
like evil man, evil
Yeah.
masculine something. Like it's so insane. He's so evil looking.
I want
Listen,
to
say what you want about the church and all those old, crusty, stupid, superstitious morons, but no one over there is being bad.
They're part of a cult.
I know, but they're not
What-
Udo.
What
Yeah,
about
we're not,
Troy? So Troy,
is patriarchal and like a negative.
what do you have to say about this whole? This film is a film about acting. You mentioned
This film
briefly
proves that
that
acting
some-
is not hard if they could just find some random chick that fucking wins a
Yeah.
bunch of awards or whatever.
I don't have super epic claims. Just that I think there is a huge conversation to be had and has been had about Trier. I mean, this film has a right. There's all this gender stuff. He invents these characters, creates a patriarchal world in which Bess works against at the will of God, and the service of a man who is mentally deteriorating, asking her to go fuck dudes and get raped in order to save his life. She does this against the patriarchy, but kind of in service of it in a way, I don't know. And then he creates a character who gets, it's so melodramatic, gets raped to death, and then puts in bells to confirm that actually she did exactly what she should have done and like this is what God wanted. I don't know. Just there's the controversy of the film mostly surrounds the bells and like the torture of a woman, and Trier's like long accused of creating women and basically torturing them in the worst possible imaginable way. Have we all seen Dogville?
No.
Brody's seen Dogville.
Oh. Okay, so I can't say, but I mean, so there's this is the first in the Golden Hearts trilogy, which are also the first films he made with female protagonists. And in general, they have golden hearts. It's women of golden hearts, and Breaking the Waves is a reference name to a children's book about a woman who gives everything she has away to anyone who asks. And it's right. It's just anyway. So you could just imagine like right a classic read on the film up to the resurrection would be like, oh, man made this film about a woman being tortured to all hell, all this stuff. And especially if he keeps doing it. But anyway, is this translating a little bit?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like imagine we made a movie, and it just the whole movie was a woman being fucking,
it could
a woman
be,
who's
it could
also
be,
like
fetishized
super
women.
stereotypically a woman, right? She like Jacob's talking about. She's chaotic and emotional and all this stuff. And then like the whole movie is just her progressively getting raped to death.
Mm. Well, that's why I said why it's kind of convincing is because she's not like, if you were to contrast this with some other movie that has like where the filmmaker wants to create like a noble female protagonist, right? They would act, they would write the character way different, right? To basically be this arrogant, like noble, woman who's like totally masculinized, and is like, she's in the boardroom and like all the men are like saying retarded stuff, throwing around a football, and she's just like, she has the one intelligent thing to say, but then they all resent her, like She-Hulk or whatever one of these movies, right?
Or Wonder Woman, when she's like, it's no man's land. In like World War II, it's no man's land. But she's like, I'm a woman, and then she fucking.
Is that a real thing?
That's a real thing.
Well,
they're in the trenches,
just
getting mowed down, and she's like, she's a woman, so she can storm.
So she can storm
trenches.
the trenches.
Right. What I'm saying is that like in order for this to even be
That's awesome.
convincing, like the fact that this is so powerful in a sense is because it's like convincing, right? It's not trying to sell you something. It's just like unbelievable, right? It's easy to imagine a woman like this existing, and we've all met.
Oh
women.
boy, have we met? But
hey, hold on. I want to circle back to
No,
Steven's
Steven's.
comparing this to Amour and kind of, I guess, also contrasting Hanukkah with Trier, Like, well, first of all, I've only seen Antichrist, like, other than this, right?
Oh.
And that's something which kind of, it's debatable how it ends, right? And its outlook. I kind of forget how that whole thing gets resolved. But definitely, if Hanukkah made this film, there would be no bells. Okay? It'd be like she would just get raped to death. And
Jan would die.
And then the credits would roll.
Yeah.
That's what happened. And honestly, this film was kind of Hanukkian, in certain ways. Well, I'm just thinking of all the times that Bess looks directly at the camera.
Yeah, we need to talk about that at some point.
And it just seems like, I don't know, it seems like when we've talked about Hanukkah films, there's always this this theme of like acknowledging the audience or like being in some sort of dialogue with the fact that it's a film which is, the entire purpose of it is to be watched by people and to be like an object of spectacle, And I don't know, I just get that feeling whenever Bess looks at the camera. It seems, you could attribute it to her being just like an inexperienced actress or something, but I also want to believe that it's intentional on some level.
It's beyond intentional. Are you out of your mind?
I'm just Oh, I'm giving it.
Give
I'm playing
Jacob the benefit of the doubt here,
I'm
Troy.
playing.
I'm sorry.
I'm playing devil's advocate here for the listener at home. Okay.
Okay, the looking at the camera
but the
fucking rules.
Okay, I'm just saying. Yeah, like I want to believe, and I was convinced the whole time that the looking at the camera was intentional and that it was supposed to be, like in a sort of Hanukkian sense, some sort of it's the film trying to bring your attention to the fact that I don't know, you're watching something.
I think you're spot on, and it's a little different in some ways. I think the Hanukkah look at the camera only takes place in funny games, but the general idea is true. I think for most of them, but the funny games look at the I think the looking at the camera in Breaking the Waves hits so different because of the cinema verite style. So it's kind of like believable within the world of the film versus
say true cinema
within the documentary style, because it's like the presence of the camera in that space is a part of what you're watching, and so her looking at it isn't like totally violating. But I love her so much. That first third, I've never loved a woman so much. So it really like makes me feel like, yes, I love you.
Well,
but also, I will say on the second viewing, I will admit to pausing the film the first time. I think on this viewing, obviously I've seen it, so when she looks at me, I feel so sad, and I do feel very guilty. And the first time Jan brings up that he wants her to see other women, I paused the film and thought, is this another Funny Games? Am I obligated to not watch this movie? Am I going to create... I'm not joking. There was a 5 to 10 minute period where I decided I wasn't going to watch it. And then I thought, oh, fuck, I have to. So I'm with you on that.
All right. So the second part of that aside, because what I'm going to say doesn't bear any weight on that. And I don't
You guys are criminals.
What to say about that. I'm sorry, Troy.
Troy, the movie's already been made.
The looking at the camera, the difference between with Hanukkah, it's a more extreme formal break. It shouldn't be possible for them to look at the camera. Versus in Breaking the Waves, at any given time, due to this thing of what's in front of the camera being real or something like that, or feeling real, and they're just capturing it. At any given time, people should be able to look at the camera, but they don't. And giving Bess the only person who has like the ability to makes it, I don't know, it adds to her power as being something that is bigger than anything else you're seeing. Like she is bigger, or because she's not only given this like separation of artist and subject, and I'm going to take a photo of you. She's given like the status of like she's given the status of like the meta, where she's like she's not only just like running along as a character in this plane, it's like she is also like vertically
just say God. So we are
no.
So we are handheld. We are with them all the way, just like God is with her everywhere. And her capacity to look at the camera is like related to that to some degree. Like when we are recognized, it's not. I don't feel recognized even whenever she looked at the camera. To be honest, like I never even thought like I'm being looked at all. Because
unlike a Hanukkah film that you would feel
I knew that I was being looked at.
Because instead I'm like in a I'm occupying a position that like floats with them everywhere, largely because of the whole handheld thing. And floating with them everywhere it's not just achieving a personal like, oh, we're with these people. They're like, it's not just to achieve the affect, but it's also to achieve this like we were, I don't know. I think we're with them every step of the way in a godly way, like in how
So hers is an awareness of like omniscience, right, or something like that. Observer.
Yes, something like that. Even if it's not like a conscious awareness, it's like it's through her. Like she has some sort of like undercurrent of awareness of the meta quality of things going on. Meta just being God, like the godly things going on.
What about when God wasn't with her for a time? presumably, right?
Well,
You just mean what, when it's on the oil rig?
I guess. I mean,
Because
there's.
otherwise it's like around her the whole time.
I know, but I like she's like, "Hello, God," and then they're like, "Oh my fucking God, he's gone." Oh my God,
God.
right?
so true. That was scary.
And then, and I was, I don't know, like,
well, he has so many other people to help.
I will, yeah,
Yeah.
Some stupid girl.
yeah. Well, I
Yeah,
mean,
keeps
yeah, but
asking.
yet, you know, the camera's always there. She's always,
But God's there.
Well,
I
okay,
guess.
let me-
Even-
well,
even
let
if-
me-
even if
let me
it's
point
just a
something
further
out.
test.
Let me
Even
point
if
something
there's,
out.
yeah, it's a test. And
Wait,
his spirit is there all the time.
but
even
you
if it's not
watching the film.
communication.
But hold on. Even though like this omniscient observer thing of the camera, which is some kind of like confirmation of the meta, of like God, because it's just there is a camera and you're aware of it. Even though that's still present, you as a viewer still feels doubt about her situation and the existence of like God in this narrative.
Yeah.
But that's because that the presence of this like omniscience or the reality of it at any given time, you're also still watching a film, so it exists in this kind of like liminal space, which kind of I think allows for it to be believable. Like it can't if it was a total confirmation of like it's like when the camera is like God observing things or something, I don't know, and like
Yeah.
some trying to confirm it. It's like the fact that it is you as like a viewer existing on the scale of omniscience versus watching a film at any given point. It's like it can be omniscient or something like
Yeah,
that. It can
even
be
if it's
meta.
even if it's not God like itself, like being with you all the time, it's like the presence of like a faith or something like that, or like a true belief or like a profound belief on her end or something like that, like a spirit of faith, as opposed to like literally God being there the whole time, which of course to some degree he's kind of there when they're in communion, but when they're talking to each other, even then you're in doubt because it's not like we're never presented with the case that God's actually there. Even when things are coming to fruition, it could just be coincidence. But the idea is it's not just God being there. It's like it's just like the faith is there the whole time. It's like this personal connection with God type thing. Her independent connection with God as opposed to the church, because of course she leaves the church. She's like excommunicated. But this idea, like it is all very like personal relation to God, and it's this relation that the camera's occupying, not God himself.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
it's this person.
That's
It's this personal communication.
okay.
For sure. I agree that when she looks at the camera, I don't feel looked at. And I think it's for that reason. And also, another note, right? Just noting, she looks at the camera twice, and both are moments.
No, she looks at the camera like 5 times.
What?
Yeah, she looks at the camera. This time viewing it, I was like, man, I thought she only looked at it like 1 or 2 times, but she looks at the camera, I think, almost at least 4 times.
Maybe I'm wrong then.
There's
So
lots
maybe
of glances.
The 2 times I know, or the 2 times I recollect, are in the very beginning, right? And when she's walking up the stairs, when Jan has been carried upstairs after getting sent home from the hospital, and they're kind of carrying him up the stairs, and then she looks at the camera, and both are moments of like extreme goodness from her. Like she looks and is communicating to you, not you directly, but the effect is of a communication of extreme goodness and joy and happiness and things like this. I don't know what I can't think of the other time she looks.
I think something that it communicates in just kind of a more direct way, like when I'm watching it, what it like feels like and means to me is it's like a reminder that she gets it, that she like understands. I'm like hit with like, she's not stupid. She knows what's going on. She understands the situation, and it's like a lot of the time I don't remember exactly when she does and doesn't look at the camera with a lot of things besides the first one and the one you're talking about, but there's like the few more where it's like, it's right after a bunch of like insane shit has happened and she's done, like with the doctor is kind of like the doctor, like when she goes and sees the doctor guy, this is like probably one of the most explicit moments of like, clear red flag mentally unstable, unwell moments, like where it's like, where you perceive it that way or something. But, and, soon after that, I'm pretty sure. I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if soon after that you have a moment where she looks at the camera and it like recontextualizes everything that you just saw, any like doubt that you had. And the film plays with like this extremity of like doubt and faith and recontextualizing of her actions, and I think that's part of what makes the film so good, is that like you are constantly sliding along the scale, and it's not like it is this way, it isn't this way, it is this way, it isn't this way. It's not like such a pulling out the rug out from under you and then putting it back again. Mm-hmm. It really is this kind of like floating scale of feeling of not knowing whether her actions are like coherent in a meta sense or not, and like playing with that and moving in and out of it.
It's kind of it's crazy to me that you said like when she looked at the camera, like you got this feeling of confirmation that she isn't stupid and that she is in fact like good. I don't know, maybe I'm too jaded or something. I just felt like she was so like uncomfortably naive to me the whole time. That's like up until the end. I just felt like I'm like, man, this woman just doesn't get it at all.
On my first viewing, I was more aligned with you, where I was super doubtful of the truth of the superstitious implications. But I don't know. I do vibe strongly with John, because it is interesting in that way where I don't feel looked at or communicated with personally, but the sense of her looking, where it's like she's not an idiot, she knows what's going on. It feels like she knows what I know, or like she can see what I see, but I don't feel personally interacted with. But I do have that. I do have that sense of the looks as being confirmation of, she's not crazy idiot.
Mm-hmm. They do strike me as knowing looks, but like in the same way that she's sort of used as a vessel when she's praying, where like she again, she'll be praying, right, and then she'll use her voice, and then God will respond to her, right, and oftentimes a few of the times, like the response that she gets from God are like thoughts that you don't believe that she could like form those thoughts herself, which makes it feel like it is sort of divine intervention, is that she's been given these like kind of concise answers to her prayers, and it just doesn't feel like because she is so kind of like and many other points like kind of ditzy and like whatever. It's like you don't believe that she could come up with that, right? And then it's evidenced even more by it's after she goes to the ship to kind of be a hooker, right? And then she goes to church and she asks God what's happening, and then there isn't any response, right? I think there's like multiple ways to read that, where it's like if like you aren't subscribing to like the superstitious stuff, then like she's incapable of like formulating like a reason for her suffering, and so she's like, it's not as simple as before, where she's like she can just be like, it's because you're a stupid girl, like she's like fully confused now, and there's no more meaning, but you could also read it as like the silence of God, and then I think that ties in with the looking at the camera, because it strikes me as like a knowing look, right, where she's like in tune with the good, God's plan, and she's kind of like look at this,
So true.
look at love.
It's like a love in action. It's like a collapsing of where her as a character and the imposition of the camera like collapse into the same thing, where it's like there suddenly becomes no separation. It's like I don't know. They suddenly become the same thing. There's like I don't know, a point of them. Like
speaking,
I don't know, it suddenly becomes just like a portrait of her or something, as opposed to like the camera looking at her or something, where it's like she becomes part of the overall narrative. But I want to say with the we're saying Yeah, I was struck by there is kind of a Christ on the cross, like why hast thou forsaken me thing that goes on specifically. I mean, it happens multiple times, but there in particular, and I think that there's just to note that I don't know I just that struck me when watching it, but what I was gonna say is that she fuck no, I was gonna say something good. I don't remember.
Well, it's totally part of the test of her love, just as it was for Christ, and she's
I-
obviously a Christ figure. Go ahead.
I remember. So I remember this. So something that just occurred to me is that the what she's being asked to do and is doing is such that it is incoherent without having the imposition that it is, or the whatever, the organizing central thing that it is what she is supposed to do in like a very fundamental sense. Like it is only what she is doing only makes sense as something good to do, even to herself personally, because you know when she's doing this with the men, it's like horrible. Like she's basically getting raped almost, and and so it's like the only way it can be coherent is if God exists or something like that, and is making it so that this is what she is supposed to do. So in that sense, it makes it so that when she does doubt, it literally is impossible for it to make sense. Which I don't know. It is like the whatever. It just necessitates like the existence of God for her for it to be like okay or something, or it to be right.
I think to not in the same vein of the Christ talk, but not in particular response to John, more in the vein of what Troy mentioned a while ago about the criticism, or at least the question that the film raises, culturally or whatever, that you have this woman character that's created to like leave phallic authority, but then ultimately just subscribes to the appeasement or something of a different man, so he's like, so it's like anti-patriarchy, but also just falls in line with patriarchy by the end in a way, or like a certain interpretation lends it that way.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, just that it is pretty interesting to think of her as how radically different. She's not just a Christ-like figure at all. I mean it is insofar as she suffers to make someone else live, so there's like a Christ-like element, but she's not Christ in the sense that she's not dying for everyone. Like she's not dying for like everyone's sins per se. I don't know. That's what we talked about. And also, she's not saving like mankind. She's saving one guy, and it's a guy that she loves and has devoted and picked her love for. Like it's not. It's very different from like some Jesus Christ who's dying for everyone. And I think that's where it gets to be like it's not like we've simply made an ultimately benevolent woman whose goal is to save everything, and her act of faith. Instead, she's just like tunneling on one. I don't know. I think that's like a pretty significant deviation from like a typical goodness of the Christ mythos, right? It's pretty. It's like
You
it's
don't
like
have
very
to be
it's
any man or something.
right. I might even say it leans in a way selfish, like in the sense like or if not selfish, it's like a really tailored selflessness, basically just of like traditional secular conceptions of love, as opposed to like some more transcendent conception of humanity as love and like some metaphysical property of love and things like that.
I think it is very in line with the Christ story, but this difference is like purposefully created so as to like, I don't know, I get the sense Trier is wanting to talk about what, religion or Christ and stuff, like what this kind of like, I don't know, it should be, but like a transference, because I think both, right, Christ and Bess are both in a way having their love put to the ultimate test, right? And like the thing that Christ does, right, the for all sins, etc., and conquering death and these things is like the ultimate objective, like like a sort of logistical objective maybe, but like they're both having their love put to the ultimate test, right? And part of that is the silence of God and the most trying of times, etc., and all these things.
True.
But I feel like Bess, it is for one man, but it's also like, I don't know, it's like for love itself. It seems like what she does is in service of like love, and there's a feeling that she has a role to play of being in love and like these types of things. So like it just feels like what is ultimately exalted in Breaking the Waves in place of a more logistical system of like redemption and sin and death and like a religious organization is like an exaltation of love as like an ultimate power. But you know what I mean?
She has the speech in the church after she goes to the boat the first time.
Yeah,
she walks in and she's how can you love words? You know, how can you love a word, et cetera, et cetera. So this is that is her socially playing a role outside of purely this world of her and Jan, because she's walking into the church and expressing that and you know, shaking shit up.
Yeah, so true. Like it's not even about how can you love words? You can only love a man, you know, and that love is perfection. And so like it seems like not only it's not necessary. I mean, it is for Jan, but like it is the love for Jan that is being fulfilled and exalted and perfected. Like her sacrifice is the act of love that is perfection, and the object of the whole exaltation is less Jan and more the love.
Yes, but it is important. I think it is important that her being, you know, just like a human subject is having to. It is that it is still important the specificity of for Jan as opposed to for some beggar on the street. You know, she's not doing it for some like random.
She is in love.
Right. Yeah. Right. There is both this. So I agree that it's this exaltation of her love for him as opposed to him, but that it still is for him in like an important sense.
The phrase I like, and I think it applies here for sure, and it is actually kind of contra Jesus Christ, but that like, you know, you reason from particulars to universal, not the other way around. You don't go from universal to particular, you go from particular to universal. It's like some Hegelian line somewhere. But like there's the idea is, you know, you have this particular of Jan, you have the particular of her love for him. And of course, what emerges out of this is is, as you guys are saying, like this more meta universal of love itself, you know, abstract concept of love or something, as opposed to, even if we're not going to say Jesus Christ, but as opposed to, for instance, the love for the beggar feels like it's a more, unless you contrive an entire narrative surrounding the particular relationship between the beggar and that person. If someone just goes and picks the beggar and then then it happens to be in service of like the universal or something like that, that feels much more like you just picked love as the superordinate thing, and now you're just picking who to attribute it to. Whereas Bess falls in love with Jan, and it becomes a superordinate universal or something like that. You know, contrary
and it's
to this other one where
through,
it's like I believe in love, and I'm gonna ascribe it now to the beggar and to the man down the street and to whatever, you know.
And I think this is also super important for the fact that a huge aspect of the, you know, building and creation and furthering of their love is the sexuality, is the sexual part, because it is so it is not, I mean, it's not like you're not universalizing like it is bodily. So two things: it is bodily, and you are going from like, you know, the dirt, so to speak, to this like transcendent love thing, but you're also like, you can't it's not like she's having sex with him and then suddenly it's like having sex with everyone is love or something. That isn't right. She's not universalizing the sexual as what is that isn't the transcendent quality that is love.
Yeah, but what's interesting is she does have sex with the other men of the world, and of course it's like in suffering, but it's for Jan. But it's like these are these are expressions of love. Like
They're expressions for love, and Jan specifically is like, it's not just he says it later. Later it becomes more the message of you need to do this to keep me alive, but also it's like he can't do it, and he wants her to do it and think of him. She's saying, I'm not having sex with them, I'm not making love with them, I'm making love with Jan and stuff like this. And I don't want to jump too far ahead, but I feel like Trier, right? He's like giving this whole thing of like, let's, like refocusing the transcendent away from like, right, this old crusty religion onto like this more universal love, but also it's very bodily oriented. And so like from the material, the transcendent emerges and like, there's nothing above, it's just here. But then I feel like in the end, he's like, just kidding. And like has the bells, right? Because like what God made best to do this, just like he made best to do this. And we were like in some I feel like that's almost a joke. The bells are kind of a joke, kind of like a hedging where he's like, I'm not actually making this giga sincere, we need to do this with the God and all this stuff.
Well, I don't know. Why can't it just be that like the bells? Yeah. Why can't it just be that for just a brief moment at the end, in a surrealistic way, the emergent transcendence of love is confirmed through an object, like as opposed to like.
I think,
so it's not like an ironic thing per se, but it's not even like that God himself is there. It's not a confirmation in any literal sense of anything, but just that the emergent. It's just like a fun little coup de grace of like the emergence is real. This is real.
Yeah,
this is.
I agree.
Real.
I don't think the bells are insincere, and I don't think the bells are saying that it isn't real. I just think the bells are like, a bit fun and maybe tongue-in-cheek of like,
Trier
the bells seem to contradict some elements of what he's doing, and they also extremely purport it, and they're kind of a little,
It's kind of like a title. It's kind of like a chapter card, though. It's kind of just this extremely heavy-handed thing that he enjoys, like just pushing into things, but that they don't necessarily contradict any of the arc of anything or like the overall cohesion or the direction of the project. But it's just a moment where it's literally behind the camera. Like it's just a moment where he's maybe you say tongue in cheek.
And the camera is up in space with it.
Yeah, maybe not tongue in right. So it's just a moment where it's like, remember, I'm Trier and I made this. Like a moment of this,
Yeah, exactly. Which is in ways contradictory, but also still
it can still be
in
real
service of the film.
Yeah.
I think I wasn't really tuned in for a second here back when you guys were talking about the love that Bess has and like its universal or not status, and I guess it made me think of it's the film. So are we all on the same page where like the film is not trying to make Bess's love out to be like a love for humanity or anything? Like, because you can imagine a different film where it's like a super noble, good character who's just they have so much love for humanity and the world, right? That they would. It's like what Troy was saying earlier, right? Where Breaking the Waves, the title, it's I guess a reference to this book where this woman will give anything to anyone, and that's that illustrates like a love for just humanity as a whole, right? Not like a particular love for one type of person, because obviously Bess would not be doing this for anyone else. And
despite Dodo's description at the wedding,
right,
true.
That's actually a great point.
So it's weird. It's weird though because watching it, you almost describe like a universal goodness or love to Bess,
right?
But I think that's what we're saying. Yeah.
So
but it's like that's not what's happening.
Well, no. I think the universal, the universal that emerges is the concept of love itself. It's the concept of love, the higher order concept. It's not love for everyone, but it's this transcendent. Concept that's universal.
No, I get it. It's this example of what love can be. Like it sparks something in your mind where you get a glimpse of what love is as like a whole, right?
Well, I think like in terms of like someone brought up like she's not just like in love and saving the beggar, it's not some rando, but I think like us as a viewer still like even don't really know that much about Jan, you know? And it's sort of, I think, a little bit of a question considering that the beginning of the relationship, like what even happened, like there's some outsider, they don't even spend that much time together, right? And it's like, how much does she even really know Jan? In some sense, it almost, this Jan guy, it's like we don't know very much about him at all. He in a lot of situations just seems like just some goober, just some guy who works on an oil rig, and there's nothing in particular that's special and amazing to be in love with him. We're not like we're at no point are we looking at the movie and like, oh, no wonder she's so
Mr.
like head over
Darcy.
heels with this guy. This guy's awesome.
Not I think he is exemplary. So you aren't convinced by him, but like he loves her, and I was convinced by like 15, 20 minutes in. I wasn't just no longer skeptical. I'd become very convinced that he loves her.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, we don't know his whole background. We don't know like what he did in his youth, yada yada. So we're not aware of many of the qualities of this guy, but we are aware, at least I was like radically convinced that his quality is that he loves her, or that he is loving, and that's that's the only characteristic you really know about him, like that, and he saves his friend, and like he's just good.
Oh, it's so true. I think he's good. I think super important is that, right, with this whole transcendent stuff, like, I don't think it's important. His love for her, I think we believe, but I think more important is that he is worthy enough, maybe not ultimately, but worthy of her love. Her love is the thing that's important. For example, if you imagine that it was important that what we were concerned about love-wise, like if we were concerned about their love, their union between them being the thing, like I feel like that would lend itself to a more like third party like I think what's primarily important is her love for him, and that he is in some sense worthy of it, and her love, her unidirectional love, is what is the producer of this thing.
Okay.
And not so much like this union.
Well, I think I like what you're saying, and I don't totally disagree. I think I think you're right, but I would push back a tiny bit and just say Jan like being worthy of her love is insofar as he really does love her. Like,
yeah,
this, and so there's really no getting around the fact that it is not like she would not love him the way she does if he didn't love her. It would be a totally different form. It would be an obsessive thing. It would be a problem.
It wouldn't work.
Wouldn't work at all. So, but you're right. I think you're right that in terms of the like conceptual structure that we care about, the point it's getting at, I think you're right to say that it's her love for him. I think you're right, and then like what emerges out of that, as opposed to their love for each other and what emerges. But it's pretty important that they love each other.
It's
like, if it didn't,
right.
it just wouldn't work. So
Well, you're right. It's very important that he loves her, and it is essential. My point is just that the core focus is her love for him, and I think it's not too controversial to say that. Not that it would make sense for the roles to be switched, but he might not have. He's not in the he's not the right person circumstantially to do the things or the types of things that she is doing for him, right. And it is about her love for him. But you're right that it is essential that he loves her too, and we trust in that.
What do you guys think about him signing the paper to send her away? Do you see that as a flaw in his love, or do you see that as him trying to put her interests before?
No, I think it's the same thing as him trying to get her, like the original impetus for him trying to get her to go make love with other people, which I get the impression that he wants her to go have sex with other people because he says like there's a moment, like the first time he says it is like, I want you to go. He doesn't say go do this for me. He only says go do this for me once Dodo tells him that
He's
she'll
trying to make
only
a
do
sacrifice
things
too.
that are for you.
Right.
Like she won't do things that aren't for you. And so, because the first time he says go have sex with people, he basically says like move on. So I think that, and he wants that for her because he says something like, I'm finished. I want you to go find love with somebody else or make love with somebody else. He says something like that. And then she says, is that what you think of me? Whatever, and runs out. And this is, I think, the thing that motivates that is the exact same thing of him signing the paper where he's like,
No.
I am fucked and done for. And I don't even know what the hell's going on with her. These people are saying this, like she needs to be taken care of. And this is how I can do it. She needs to get it. I think ultimately it's, she needs to get the hell away from me because I'm fucking evil in the head, you know?
Sure, but that's what I'm saying though, is like, wouldn't that show a misunderstanding though? Because it like,
Well,
because
yes,
if he
'cause-
loves her and he understands her completely, then he would know that she's not, like, she's doing all these things.
well, yeah, but he
because
doesn't.
she loves him.
Yeah, he doesn't
And,
have.
I don't
her
think he
faith.
understands
He doesn't
her.
have her faith
Right.
in the
I'm
the
just-
situation. And
I'm
so I
saying
think,
so that's a flaw in his love, which is why
Well,
it's not just about their love for each other. It's about her love.
yeah. She
I don't know, it's a flaw.
was not. It's. I don't think it's a flaw so much as like a difference. I mean, it's a flaw insofar as like a perfect belief in.
Well, yeah, he doesn't have the belief, but I'm saying like, if we're kind of like, we are equating, we're using her love as an example for like some sort of perfect love, right? And so the fact that he isn't able to grasp that fully, I mean, would it
Well,
not mean
he's-
that we'd consider his love like not, as lesser as,
I think in general, I don't give him the same type of agency as her, right? Like he's clearly conflicted and feels that he is doing things under the influence of either drugs or being near to death, right? He's like, do you think that when you're close to the edge, you become evil or like bad or something, you change? Like, I also think that he is loving her in a way suited to his mind. Like they're just different people. I don't think he thinks he's saving himself by asking her to do those things. Like, I don't think that I don't know. I don't think do we think he's really of the belief that if she does these things, it will cause him to live directly? You know what I mean? Like,
no.
I feel more like he's just become this kind of weird vessel of sorts, and he doesn't understand himself. Like, he has some like surface level, like, I want you to be happy and move on, like John's saying.
well, that's how it starts.
But also like his direct requests, like, this will keep me alive, like literally. Like, I don't think he truly.
He doesn't believe. He's
that's why I think
he's clearly being a little bit manipulative when he says that,
Yeah.
right? Because he
he's
knows
clearly-
he knows how much she cares about him, and so he's trying to create an incentive for her to kind of
To move
start
on.
microdosing, moving on. from
Yeah.
him,
Yeah.
right.
But I think this is exactly why it's important that her love for him is what's essential here.
But I'm saying he
Not that
seems
his
to
is
understand.
lacking,
I'm
but
saying
it
he
takes
seems
a
to
totally
understand.
different form.
Saying he seems to understand that earlier in the film, where he understands that she will do anything, and she has no sense of like self-preservation or whatever. That she only loves him. So you think that if he understood that earlier and was telling her all these things about how she needs to go love other people for his sake, like you think that he would, like, it just seems weird that he would.
He doesn't understand how much she
He
loves
would,
him.
right? He would keep. I mean, that's what I'm trying to say, though. And that's like a flaw, right?
But that's not
I-
a failure
so-
to
so-
love. It's
so-
a failure to understand.
Yeah, so I think,
Sure,
I think
I'd be willing to agree with that.
Like, continually, right, with the divorce thing, right? He doesn't, right? She's so offended because he does not get how much she loves him.
Yeah.
And he doesn't really come into contact with how, until the end, he doesn't realize what she's doing for him. Like, I think he sees it as like a way to get her to move on. And he doesn't realize that she is like being tortured by these acts. Because she comes back to him and tells him he's so big and I grabbed his prick and all this stuff.
I think in a sense, he is a vessel for God and for like issuing tests for her, right?
Yes.
So so like insofar as God loves people, it's like he loves her too. But like he's issuing these tests to her, unknowingly. It's not like his goal is to test her per se. But then also he's the one to save her body. I mean, he and his friends, he and the apostles or whatever, the saints. They're there to.
Okay, hold on.
They're there to, they're the ones that save her body and make sure she's not condemned to hell. So in a sense, like it's all you can kind of ascribe a godliness to him or holiness, like that he was able to issue, like she succeeded in her task, like she was like she passed the tests, all of these tests. I mean, of course, he's not consciously issuing the test, but and that's why they prevent her from going to that funeral, where they condemn people to hell.
Dude, how
in hindsight, I think he understands. I think in the thing, he thinks he's trying to get her to move on. He doesn't understand the level of suffering she's going through. But in the end, when he's clear-headed, he sees what's been done, what she's gone through, and what she did, and kind of recalls what he like. I think he realizes in the end the nature of what took place.
And that's when he signs the paper.
No.
No?
When she's dead and he's resurrected, I mean.
Oh,
I think when he signs the paper, he thinks he is an evil force for her.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Yeah. True.
But I'm saying after it's all said and done, and he's clear, and he sees and he understands.
Yeah.
That this is what he realizes he was a vessel for these tests, and that all this stuff, and he finally understands in some sense just how much she loved him and what she was doing for him and all this stuff.
You could also maybe say, like, I don't think it would be like too far off base to say that he was like 80% manipulated to signing the papers by the doctor.
Oh, for sure.
He frames the whole thing.
So like, well, he is.
But the doctor, I do want to say, I'm sorry, Brody. I won't go launch into a big thing. I just want to say the doctor is just another. Like, we can't just hate the doctor. The doctor is another form of test.
No.
That's all. That's like
The
the doctor is a
right
test,
thing.
and he even says that she's good. She
That
is
is
good.
true.
All
That
right,
is
go on,
true that he does say that he's good, right? But I just wanted to bring the doctor in specifically because it is very clear that this is not just like a Jan signing the paper thing. It almost seemed like he once again was serving as a vessel for other people's ideas of what should be happening. He seemed to play, especially in that moment. Maybe in other moments when he was a bit more lucid, he was very clearly trying to get her to move on. And maybe you could say that this is also a form of sacrifice for him. If he were to die, that she gets to move on and continue to, let's say, walk again and not be tied down by him, right? Now when he doesn't have legs, both of them don't have legs now. Something like that. Just not just saying Jan signed the papers because that's it.
To be clear, the beginning of the scene in which he signs the papers, there's all this acknowledgement that he is lucid in a way that he usually isn't. Like they say, like, oh, you're not usually around the way you are, or something like that right now. Like, we don't get through to you or something, but now we do. So can you sign? Like, so that in the way in which the doctor he is like enacting the doctor's will, it's only by the fact of like how you would be enacting my will if I framed a situation for you in a certain way and the clear choice was a certain direction,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it makes sense from his POV, right? He is doing what's right from his POV of love for her. He doesn't really get what's going on. Also, it mirrors with, right, she loses the support. Right? She's told that Jan signed the papers. And also, this is in the period of time when God is not answering her prayers. Like, she's now in the absence of Jan, in the absence of God, right? Just furthering the test or whatever.
I was trying to say with the, Jan misunderstands her love, and that is just reinforcing how this is really about her love for him, right? And like the lengths that she'll go to take that love, act on it, whatever. and it's not. Yeah.
Quick question, Brody. Were you not? Did you think that she was just? It was kind of like a clever escape when it seemed like she kind of supernaturally disappears out of the back of the paddy wagon.
Oh,
When she's taken to the asylum and then she's just disappeared. And it cuts to her far away back on her shit.
Right.
So I feel like that's the first, that's one of two, or I guess one of, Jan's improvement could be, right, coincidental. So like, it's one of two supernatural moments of the bells and
I don't know if
her.
No, there's
paddy
three
wagon-
because also her body just being missing under sea. There's nothing on the radar.
No, they stole it.
No, and the
Oh,
radar. They before
No,
he
they
comes
use
out
the
to,
radar
No,
for the bells.
The radar's for the bells because the boat's been moving. They dump the body and then go back to bed.
that was the.
And then the radar
Like,
is
the
to
radars
say,
are for the
look, there's nothing on
bells?
the radar. There's nothing.
Yeah,
on
Well, the radar
there's
is
like
to
there's
show that
nothing
there-
there.
there
Look, just
is-
to make sure.
Oh,
And then
I-
they go on deck, and then there's bells and.
Oh,
that
I
they
thought the
hear.
radar was only scanning things underwater. Unironically.
No, I think it's
No,
we
I think
hear
it's-
these loud as hell bells, and there's nothing on the radar.
Hell's bells because she went to hell.
Like, how is there
So-
nothing on the radar when we hear all these bells?
Yeah, I think the radar's bells. Yeah, they stole the body. Or no,
Yeah,
I know.
I know.
You were
Yeah,
saying
I know.
you thought the body disappeared from the ocean.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Honestly, I'm gonna Jan's suicide attempt.
Oh my
Based.
god, so insane.
So evil.
That's what?
No, that was epic.
So based.
No, totally understandable. Totally. Look, it might not be
Evil,
the right,
evil
it
can
might
be evil can be understandable.
Well, no, but it totally mirrors him signing her away.
Yeah, I'm not saying
He
it's
sees it.
inconsistent. I'm just saying it's evil.
Is this something we really want to
not
figure
good.
out? Like, is this something we
Listen.
really want to get to the bottom of right
Listen.
now?
hindsight 2020. I bet he's cringing in his pants thinking I just killed myself. Look
Yeah,
at me.
now
I'm
he's
walking
now he's
around.
walking now he's walking around. The bells are going off. He's like, remember that
It's
time
so-
when I tried to
But
kill myself?
she
No,
might still
but
be
it's
alive.
like- done it, she'd
the
be
suicide
alive.
is so performative. It's like, oh my god, oh, I'm a cripple. Looks like I gotta commit suicide. It's like,
So
yeah,
performative.
dude.
No, he
Why don't
sees
you-
what's on the
Why
horizon.
don't you turn off the TV?
He sees what's coming, man. Why don't you turn up?
Like, he knows the cameras are watching, and that's why he does it. Otherwise, he
He's
Yeah.
just like, he's just like,
Oh,
I've
look at
re-
me.
he's like,
He's
I've
like,
read
oh, God's
about this.
watching. Let me swallow these pills.
Yeah,
I
but
saw
then he
this in a
misses
movie
intentionally 'cause
once.
He's not actually gonna kill himself. It's all just for show.
I thought
Yeah.
that he didn't actually get any pills in his mouth at first. There was kind of a bait and switch there, right?
He didn't.
Where it looks like,
He didn't.
He did
He
it.
doesn't get pills in his
Okay.
He
mouth.
goes like this. He gets
Oh.
it right here.
yeah, I know.
And
No,
then
no,
he's
I
up
saw-
on the floor.
yeah, I saw. But then he ends up when Dodo's reading to him, he goes incapacitated, right? Which then,
Well, yeah, but that's because Bess is not being a good girl. She's ignoring him.
okay.
So God's like, time to put you to sleep.
No,
for
no.
a
I
second.
feel like
Yeah.
there's a very clear.
Deteriorate.
I feel like there's a very clear implication that there's a little bit of bait and switch going on. Like, you think that he didn't get any Valium in his mouth, but actually maybe you just didn't see because the frame was a little dark, right?
No, I think it's incredibly
You
clear
guys-
that the pills did not end up in his mouth.
Yeah,
Like,
You guys are just being dishonest right now.
No,
No.
That frame,
No.
the frame is dark. You can't see all the
God
pills.
is up
No,
there
you
with
can
a
totally
letter
no,
see.
that
no,
says
you're falling
improve,
back on
deteriorate.
you're falling back on some fucking schizo shit of like, yeah, the whole time I knew that, God was in control
No.
and he
No.
No, it's very clear.
Purely just on
No,
the pill
no.
aspect.
I never.
Purely
I,
on the pill.
I
the pill
first
yeah,
thought
that's
you
what I'm
were-
saying. That's what
never
I'm saying.
You
once
see
thought
it.
guys
John,
see
you're
the
being
whole thing.
so dishonest right now. That's why I'm
No.
saying bait and switch and not, yeah, all the pills obviously got in his mouth and that's why he's in the hospital. No, it was
No.
fuck
I thought his.
guys.
I thought his.
You
I thought
watch
his
the
health
whole
was
thing
great.
He's up close.
Sometimes he just
You
Outside.
watch the
Outside.
whole thing. You see the whole thing super up close. Him trying to get the bottles, and the whole
It's,
bottle.
you can see
spilling
pills
out.
fall. You can see pills fall, but that section of the screen is dark. You can't see everything.
This conversation sucks.
This is like
dumb.
It's not
Freaking
dumb.
dumb,
This
but
isn't dumb. You guys are being so dishonest right now. I can't believe this.
no, it's not. Like, it's not. It's not. It's not dumb. It's not dumb. But you did have a perception that doesn't match any of ours.
Dude, this is so stupid.
No, listen.
You guys are being so dishonest.
Jamie, pull it up.
Yeah.
Jamie,
That's
pull
why
it
I'm
up.
saying.
Yeah.
That's why I'm saying bait and switch, and not. Oh yeah, You guys aren't even listening to the words that are coming out of my mouth.
No. I understand.
No,
I hear what
I
you're
think
saying.
I'm
I
not
hear what
saying that he
now.
obviously overdosed. I'm saying
No.
that
I know what
they're
you're
No,
saying.
we know what you're saying.
I
No,
understand what
you
you're saying.
fucking
No.
don't.
I do.
You fucking don't.
You think you see all the pills go on the ground. You perceive
Yeah.
that. Then
Yes.
you're like,
You're like, oh, I
suddenly
guess he
he's
failed.
incapacitated, and you're
Yeah.
like, wait, maybe he did take the pills. But here's the thing: is he's fucking dying, and maybe sometimes shit just goes wrong, and then suddenly he's incapacitated. and has to go to the
that's,
hospital.
but that's also an assumption.
I
Like, you're just assuming that he's
But
random.
but the thing is
Dude.
I'm not assuming that all of the pills end up on the floor because I see it happen.
I think you're failing to recall the
No.
passage of time between the failing suicide and
Why
him
treat it so much
not being
louder?
like. There's a substantial. I think here.
No, she comes in later, and he's just like, and then in that moment when he's just like, and Dodo's rolling him over, you think, okay, did a few pills get in maybe? But then he's okay, and then she's talking to him, and then she's like, oh, you want me to read to you? And then she's reading to him, and then he's fucking incapacitated. So it's not totally clear that he just fucking failed. There are multiple moments where it's like you're thinking that maybe a few fucking pills could have gotten in.
If I were this parallel, if I were able to move my arms like this, I feel like I'd have a lot of.
We
hope.
are all watching this.
Yeah, just for the viewers at home, we're recapping. He's got the bottle in his hand. He's getting it. He's using his arms.
Okay, there is a split
He's
second
getting
in which
close.
his arm obstructs.
Hold on. Oh, it's close to his mouth. He's almost got it. He can just about taste the bottle. Oh, and they pour out, but there is a slight
But you
obstruction.
see, in that moment,
But I
you
think
don't
based
know.
on the look
like,
on his face, it's a
and
look
then
of
she
defeat.
comes in, he's just like, oh.
And then
fucking
Dodo comes in. He's like,
fuck.
what the fuck are you doing?
And you're just like, okay, what's going on? And he's like, okay, he's okay.
Gosh, such a good performance.
Because obviously Jan wouldn't say that he just
I'd marry Dodo. Dodo is
Okay.
kind of a cutie.
suicide.
But why is he so upset that he didn't get them in his mouth if he got some in his mouth?
What do you mean?
Like he's so like, oh my god, I fucked
Els-
it up.
No,
I didn't
To
get
be fair
it
to
out."
Elsmore,
He's like, oh my god, because he's like,
I can feel a few. I can feel the two and a
You know
half
what I
I
mean?
got.
he just said.
To Elsmore, to be fair to Elsmore, the whole film does
Okay, listen.
lever on this crux.
Oh man.
You might be right. Maybe he gets a couple Valium in his mouth.
I think we need to get a doctor on the podcast.
But it doesn't matter.
No, but I'm not. John, you
I'm just
fuck.
kidding. I'm just
Fuck
kidding. I
you.
don't understand. I
I'm-
don't understand. I don't
No,
understand.
fuck you. I never said that he obviously gets a few in his mouth. I'm saying that it's playing around with,
possibly.
like, you don't
Elsewhere.
know, right? Like, there's like a bait and switch. Oh, he
Troy, you're muted.
none of them got in. Oh, okay, maybe some of them did get in.
Testing.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
I get it. I don't understand.
You guys
why.
were acting like I said yes. He for sure just freaking.
That's what it sounded
got
like. You're
killed.
saying it was a bait and switches in. It's he didn't get him in his mouth. He did get him in his mouth. Is what it sounded.
No,
That's what I
no.
thought you were saying
It's-
until
no,
literally
no.
2 seconds ago.
dude. Okay, I'm gonna attribute your misunderstanding to some fucking maybe your headphones were.
Oh my
Ted.
god!
There
This
we go.
is
Or Jordan
I
or
don't. We
something.
need to.
No,
Stop
what I
talking
need to
about
know,
this.
what I need to know
No,
from
it's
Elsmore.
not
we
important.
don't. No, we don't. No, we don't. Now I don't
Now
even
what
know
I-
if you
what I
guys
need
even
to hear from
understood the movie
Elsmore
at all.
is how is it possible? Why is it not the case that Breaking the Waves single-handedly destroys religion, blown the fuck out? Religion is stupid. I don't know. I just want to hear. I want to hear. I just want to hear some
Like,
religious.
organized
I mean,
religion.
Did you mean
I mean, you could
institutional
frame.
religion?
I mean, obviously
Yeah.
the movie's framed as like trying to discredit these curmudgeonly old church-going people, right? Who just have this like dogmatism about them, and they're like they don't actually believe in the living. They don't believe in the living
How
word.
can you love a
is what I have
word?
to say, okay? They just
That was so bad.
believe.
Listen, I was thinking about this movie last night. I think I'm coming around to Catholicism. I might be Catholic pilled. I shouldn't be.
No, you shouldn't.
Does anybody
That's-
have
that's a big
any?
decision. That's a big decision. I'm saying
We
that's a
need-
big decision that you shouldn't
I'm Jewish, Phil.
Does
Should be
anybody-
convinced by a film.
Does anybody
should
have
go-
any
you should go into
thoughts
action.
about?
Hold on. I just want to issue a public apology to John,
We love that.
We love that.
and
The
I
viewers at
also
home are gonna. I've been waiting for that one.
Yeah,
and also
they've-
and also I apologize for getting. I also apologize for pretending to be angry.
Okay.
That's okay.
Does anybody have?
What
So
would
true.
what would Bess do?
What would Best do? She'd
Oh
Would
Lord.
Bess, if I were Bess, I'd have to have sex with all of you.
if does anybody have any thoughts about
Best.
that scene where there was like that mirroring effect going on, where he
Oh, it's
chugged
so
the beer
awesome.
and he chugged the lemonade or something,
Oh, and then he breaks the
Dude.
glass.
and then he's
So
like,
epic.
I got an idea. Oh, you're copying me? Copy this.
Stupid.
Stupid.
That's awesome. It's so fun. It puts such a big smile on my face.
Yeah, that's a great.
Yeah, put
Well, it kind of it made me not hate the
And not
The
hate the
friends.
church people so much.
you know what I mean? Because at first,
Yeah.
at first you're just like these fucking dudes are just like dipshits. They're just like running amok in this guy's wedding. Like fuck these people. But then I don't know. There's that moment, and then the moment where he asks them where the bells are. It kind of made me. I put myself in his shoes and just be like, yeah, if I was just at a wedding, like I just trying to have a good time, you know,
Yeah.
make some conversation, have a little fun.
Yeah, I agree. I didn't like hate either of the parties of people after some stuff happened. At first, I was like, "Ooh, these outsiders, they're not doing good." You
Yeah.
know, I was pretty worried. I was worried about them. Are they? Who's gonna fuck up here? Who's gonna just do the dumb shit that fucks everything up?
Yeah.
But it never really happens. But I will say that the lemonade glass thing was not a fun scene for me. It was extremely tense, and I did hate
No.
the pastor in that moment. I didn't hate the whole church or the whole group, and I didn't like hold that against everything. But in that moment, I was like, this guy is fucking retarded. This guy is like so committed to whatever he's doing, so dogmatic.
No. This is a bigger.
Troy, when you
breaking
say
a
that
glass
scene,
in
when
your
it's
hand is
just
psycho.
No, it's not just fun, but it
fun,
makes me
like,
smile.
the bolt
It's-
is actually
I
insane.
like it because it's like, okay, like, right, how are these groups can interact? It's just fun. I thought it was very fun seeing. Yeah, it's like
Drinking the lemonade was
playful
Like that was
one-upping machismo stuff. We're like, watch this, go, and then the other guy's like,
But
hold
breaking
on,
the
just
glass is a
listen. It's over the line.
Over the line.
For sure. But it's funny. I think it's a funny over the line. I think it also fits, right? They're like there's a fun surface level and like a real competition taking place too. Where he's like, I'm gonna drink this beer super big, whatever. He drinks the glass. It's like all fun and games, and he's like, you know, are we at least with it on this kind of masculine like competition?
Yeah, it's
sure.
fun.
I get it. It's a trope.
Yeah.
I
But it's
get
also
it, of
serious.
course,
The
yeah.
guy's
It was
like,
very,
he's
it was
also
a very
communicating
Chuddian
to him.
moment.
And it is over the line,
No,
but he's like, oh, like this is how serious. Like you think you're
No,
serious in your life? I'm fucking serious.
No, but like, yeah, but it was, but of course, yeah, you're right that that's what's going on. I agree. And at first I was smiling, and it wasn't, I'm not saying like I hated the scene. I think the scene's great. It just didn't inspire like happiness, because when he crushes the glass, this machismo that's going on is like
No,
pure evil. You're fucking breaking a glass in your hand.
It's just
You're sober,
self-destructive.
You're this
No,
religious
'cause- so
autist.
let me.
What do you-
I need
what do you
no. I
think?
need to point something out.
It's
So
like
the-
it's
so
like
I wouldn't
it's,
call it
it's
evil.
so over the line. That's like
So listen,
like, and it's like
the
all
oil
about
rig. So Jan's friend is participating. He's the like based one in the situation, because he's like, he is playful, recognizing this as this kind of like this pissing contest, and it's fun, and he's not
Well,
taking
he-
it very seriously.
Well,
Yeah.
Well, he issues the challenge. He's the one who chugs. To
he
begin with.
he chugs
Yeah.
it. He chugs it. He starts the challenge, and he's also treating it clearly. And the crushing of the can is kind of the positive outcome would be he crushes the can, and then the guy recognizes, you know, the silliness of what's going on, you know, and comes to his level and is like, you got me there, you know. The breaking of the glass is this like, because the pastor or whatever he is, you know, the priest guy, he is participating in this cheeky fun game, and he's using it as the battlefield of like, you know, this is my fucking church and my land, and you're coming in here and fucking it up, as opposed to actually recognizing what it as this silly pissing contest, like the emptiness of the game that they're playing. And like this is like this, and I don't know, it's like a misplacement of the, yeah, I don't know.
I mean, in my mind, when that happens, you're supposed to think to yourself, this priest and this church by proxy is so fucked. Like, this guy breaking this glass here is indicative of a whole swath of issues that are irreconcilable with anything we would call, like, a normal, good life. Like, this
because he doesn't return to a baseline of, like, oh my god, you crushed the can. I can't do that with my glass, you know?
I wasn't feeling like the crushing of the can. I don't know if the crushing of the can, or maybe it was. Anyway, I feel like we have the same take, other than I think I have more, I don't know if it's the right word, respect for the priest in that life. I think you can imagine a similar scene. I just think it's funny, and also, like, I don't think it's so, like, an indication of something so bad. I think it's an indication of something so serious and different. You know, but I don't, you know what I'm saying?
No, I just thought it was bad because it's like, it's such, as you called it, like a self-destructive act, and like this is one of the first glimpses into like this is like in it because of its like we'll call it everydayness, or like how even in games, or even in this moment of pleasure, or like whatever you might call his wedding or something like that, he carries with him this like horrible like dogmatism about things, or whatever you might call it, like that it is inescapable for him, and so like, and by proxy it's the whole lifestyle there. And I'm not saying like, all I'm saying is I'm not smiling at it because we are supposed to see it as over the line, and not only is it over the line, this is going to portend all sorts of like problems going forward. Immediately we're like, oh my god, this is gonna be important, and it is. Ultimately, the whole outsider versus insider dynamic is a huge problem, you know? Like, we, like, by the end of the film, we're happy that she's not getting buried by this church because they condemn people to hell. We're glad that happened, you know, that she gets saved from hell in that sense, or whatever. Like, and this is, you know, this is primed at the very start, and this scene is like one of the first primings of it.
I think you might be tapping into something there, but what I got from the breaking the glass was just, it was an illustration of how unworldly these people are, right? Like, they don't mind physical harm or whatever because they're all they're just not worldly, right?
So
they have their eyes set upon.
I think they're also like kind of you know, as going back to what Steven said, it's like, I think it's very important to show that they're not fun. They're not like, and like their hardness is almost like ungodly in a sense, maybe.
I think, you know? This is
like, you know, he goes outside and he's like, where's the bells at? Right? And he's like, we don't have bells. We don't need it to worship God. But obviously the bells end up, you know, by the end of the movie being like the ultimate form of symbolism towards, like, you know, God's truth, you know?
I have an example. I think Troy is perceiving these people a little more in line with how you might perceive the church in Babette's Feast.
Yeah, maybe, or just
you think they're probably more. You have probably less respect for them in breaking the waves, but you're seeing their way of life as more legitimate than not.
I'm in agreement. Sorry.
Than in like. I just want to say that, like, I mean, I don't know if anybody else thinks this is useful, but I thought about this in watching the movie. I think comparison to Babette's Feast and what is going on in this, like, corruption from the outside world is relevant, because in breaking the waves, their connection with God is not non-existent, but one that is not, but is triumphed over in a more antagonistic or opposite direction way than in something like Babette's Feast, where in Breaking the Waves, Bess, the church has in some sense lost God because they want to condemn Bess to hell,
because they don't love. They have no love.
They have no love, and that in Babette's Feast, their connection to God is legitimate but incomplete or something, as opposed to wrong or empty in the way that it is in Breaking the Waves, and that like there's an emptiness. It is like the word without like action, whatever. I mean, like there's no living word. There is no living love. It's just like this kind of, yeah, it is just dogmatism. There is, and like, I don't know, I guess you could respect the commitment to the word, and their belief that this is being in line with God and the right thing to do, and respect the commitment to a rule that you believe is right or something. But outside of that, like, I feel like you can't really feel that anything they're doing is actually in line with what is right outside of this subjective.
They're totally
right.
Not at this
Yeah, the
point,
church is
though.
totally-
And I think the connection to Babette's is great, because Babette's Feast, if you don't respect the people in Babette's Feast, the movie like doesn't work for you. And I think
Yeah,
at this
movie
early in the
doesn't
film,
work, yeah.
we don't know that they're all. I mean, I just feel like I'm in agreement, but I'm trying to touch upon one level of this little interaction that maybe isn't being appreciated, or I think Stephen you guys just feel it's being overshadowed by this other thing.
I think it
But I feel
is.
like the scene would work the same
Yeah.
way if it were like, I don't know, you imagine some British salesman, sailing, they encounter some indigenous tribe, they're very nervous, but they get invited to some cookout, and they're hanging out, and one of the colonial guys, they have like a little pissing contest with like the chief, and it's like, some type of incurring minor pains or doing something kind of discomforting, and then the chief like sticks a stick through his hand, like not so much that he's permanently injuring himself, but it's like way crazy, right? I feel like it's a funny scene. They're playing a game together, but and it's funny because it's outrageous, and then also it is communicating about the characters, right? Like this chief guy, whatever, is like, they don't mess around. They don't have this type of thing. I don't know. I just feel like it was both funny and happy, encouraging, and also a tale of things to come with how serious these guys are. But I think in the beginning of the movie, you don't have that kind of ill will towards the church. They're clearly an ascetic, serious people, but they haven't done anything bad.
You're right. No. It is just in that moment. That's the point. That's our differences in the affect. So I agree with everything about it, and it is fun at first when they're drinking the lemonade. But the whole point is that it's, in my mind, or like affectively, like it's not just funny or fun, and it's not just a mild difference. This difference, what comes from this communication of difference between the two types of people, is not just like a pluralistic, okay, this is how these people are, this is how us people are. I think this is the first like intense moment of like the differences have extreme consequences. The consequence in this case is like potential self-destructiveness, where it's like they're playing the same game, you might say, but then you realize, no, they're not playing the same game because of the extent that one's willing to go to. And that's what's, for the first time, that's communicated. Because before that, okay, we got the outsiders, they're drinking, they're having way too much fun. It's just overbearing, it's silly, but it's like, whatever. This is like, ultimately they're all still at the wedding or something like that. This is, I'm not even saying like this like, oh, he breaks the glass and now it's irredeemable. Like he could at some point have some sort of positive qualities, but it's more just like this difference that we're recognizing is one with extreme consequences. And I noticed that, and I'm not smiling anymore. I'm like, oh right, this is a serious issue at stake.
I think we're just
both
agreeing
right.
just on what overshadows what. I don't really disagree in any meaningful way. I like it. Not that it's a good thing. No, we're in total
I liked it too. I liked
unequivocal
it too.
agreement.
Yeah.
We are at 2 hours and 13 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Perhaps when John gets back, we'll start wrapping up.
We
on
have to
real
reach
quick.
Okay.
We all know that we have to at least reach the runtime.
The
That's so true.
runtime.
Yeah.
Because
by the
people
time
people will click on it thinking that it's a full upload.
I see. Well,
Elsewhere, you don't think? Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying that by the time that like when we get through everything we do, I think it would end up actually being about 2 hours and 30 minutes. But
Yeah.
I am in agreement that it should be vaguely the runtime, not because people will get confused, but out of some sort of weird enjoyment of there being a parallel. And it seems like, well, shouldn't you talk about the movie for at least as long as it's run? Which
So
is
true.
which is obviously a silly thing to think. But
No,
it
we should
feels
talk
right.
about it for as long as it took Chair to make it. Elsewhere,
Brody?
I think the living word is cool, and I think the Catholic energy of canonization is interesting, and like their focus, and I'm almost certainly wrong because I don't actually know, but I get a sense of like a certain kind of focus on the living, like the of what is it? What's the phrase? The kingdom of God on earth. And that like the structure and the canon and the living continuing entity on earth as the thing object of worship, though not necessarily the object of worship, but kind of the object of worship, which I think is interesting and persuasive.
Well, not the means of worship.
Both.
Because you're talking about just like the mystical body of the church, where they say that like, yeah, it's the kingdom of God on earth. It's the church is like a mystical body that's like in union with the kingdom of heaven.
Yeah, and
that you know, in contrast to kind of like the people in this movie, or like some versions of Christianity you see, right, where like it does feel kind of dead, or people are so unworldly, they have their sights set upon, you know, another world, so to speak, that and you know, like it's a meme that Protestants or whatever, you know, for instance, don't really believe in works as a requirement for salvation, just faith. And so it's just completely removed from the physical world, and almost just like totally idealistic in that it's just like focused on the realm of ideas and belief and faith. Whereas, in something like Catholicism or something, that's they definitely emphasize that the world is important, right? That God created the world, and that there's therefore like a mission for humanity and for like people living in the world. Like you should lead a good life on Earth, right?
Well,
it's not just like a fake proxy realm.
Yeah, it's not a fake proxy realm, but I'm specifically referring to the way in which the canon and ever developing canon, or the spiritual body, is both the method and, I think, in a substantive way, object of worship.
Are you saying that it's like idolatrous to like have this structure?
No, I'm saying it's cool.
Like, but like you're saying that if you're saying it's an object of worship, like
no, but I don't think it's idolatrous.
Okay.
I'm saying I'm more put off in a way. Never mind, we're not doing it.
What? What? Hold on.
Calvinism. Tell me if I'm wrong, because I think that's first off. I'm pretty sure that's the religion that's in the film, the church at least. That
definitely informed by Calvinist theology.
Don't they believe in predestination?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And that is a huge deal that I'm not going to think about right now. But that is a big deal when
believe in what? Sorry, say it again.
Well, it's very notable given
predestination.
Oh, predestination.
Yeah.
I wish that had been brought up
you were
earlier.
a sinner and you were going to hell.
I wish I had brought it up earlier. It fits in really well with the whole
With what?
God as like create like God made Baz to be raped to death in exchange for this and that, and Trier made this film and all the sense. Yeah, it would have been cool to think about that earlier, but the time for thinking is over. The time for giving scores and wrapping this up is now.
Okay.
Yeah.
John first.
John first. I love
John
this.
the
John
first.
1, John
John.
3:16.
I love this. I love this movie.
I love this shit.
This movie's so good. I just last night when we turned it on, it was like the first like 5 or 10 minutes. I was kind of worried that while watching, I was still, a little bit stressed about my week and work and these things, and I was like, oh, maybe I'm gonna have to be watching this movie, more like analytically than I did last time. Last time I remember I was just deep in it and feeling it and stuff, and I was like, damn, this kind of sucks. I remember the first scene like blowing my mind, and now I'm like, I'm not as in it, I'm not as hit by it. But then within like 10 minutes, I was like, I just am so impressed by the way this movie just grabs me by the shirt and like just pulls me in and just like holds me the entire time. I love this movie so much. And my score is 4.7.
Oh,
Ooh,
I
nice.
really
score.
like this movie.
breaking the John.
Breaking the scoreboard.
Breaking the John. Don't some. Is it British to call it the? No, isn't it? Don't some people call it the
toilet is the John.
Yeah.
I think that's a
That's
British.
American.
Breaking.
Oh
the
no, it's
John.
an American thing.
Yeah, I think it's American.
The loo is
Is a British thing.
So the John. Got to use the John. So breaking the John is when you have like too much Taco Bell.
He just gave it a high score because the name characters. One of the guys, his name is Jan, which is just John.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
I was
Jan
just
is
like,
a
this is
syllable
literally
like God.
me.
Literally me.
Okay, I'll make sure that when I'm writing down these scores, that I give John a much. I'll dock him a
Give
point.
an asterisk.
Well, I'll
Yeah.
just dock him a point, and then I won't put in any asterisk.
A whole point.
Yeah,
a whole
point.
point.
Yeah,
Does
dude.
it mean
Imagine how many you have to dock if my name was Bess.
Yeah, this movie was really good. I liked it a lot. Love handheld and cannot wait to use handheld when I make a movie, because handheld is literally one of the most important things ever invented by anything ever in anything. It's God's
Holding
creation.
something?
God's gift.
Is holding
Yeah,
is hold
handholding
is
things.
is holding things with your
holding
hand.
a camera. No, holding a camera.
Holding a
specifically
camera
with your
specifically.
hands.
And tripods.
Um,
Tripods are the devil.
While it runs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, dollies, dude, don't even.
Don't even.
Satanic.
Don't even.
Idolatry.
Yeah. But
That's good.
that's idolatry.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
idolatry.
give this movie a. This is gonna sound surprising given how much I said I like it. I'm gonna give it a 3.9.
Wow.
Oh, crushing
3.9.
blow.
Liked it a lot though.
Bodie gives this film. Bodie really likes this film.
Oh my God.
I
Brody want milky.
John fucking read my mind. Presumably, I don't know what he did to me, but he took the goddamn words right out of my mouth. In particular about the thing about how I felt really sucked in. I got sucked into the movie. And which was like something that I hadn't felt in a little while, these last few movies that I've seen, except for whatever it's called, Synecdoche, New York. I felt this way, but these movies that I've been watching just in my own house, in my own time, extracurricular movie watching, I haven't really felt this engaged with the entire world, as much in quite a long time. Lots of interesting things to think about. Very good flick. Love a Trier flick. I'm gonna give this one a 4.4.
Wow.
Good score.
Stunning and brave statement by Trier. The disabled are fully human and capable of love. Maybe even more so than normal people. Or maybe women are just chaotic and evil. And the resolution of the film has nothing to do with God or love or any of that shit. Maybe things just kind of work out sometimes. Nah, that would make me too sad. Anyway, I give the film a 4.2.
Okay. Wow. That's a good score.
Hell yeah.
As a quick note elsewhere, the next film, The Idiots, has a lot to do with
We were making a bold statement about how the
disabled.
are capable of love.
Yeah.
We have to watch that then.
I really want to. Okay. Listen, audience. Are you picking up a pattern here? Are you starting to notice something in all these closing statements? That's right. Getting sucked off. What we can't communicate to you on this podcast is how well made this movie is. How emotionally powerful it is. I had similar concerns with John. I'm queuing it up. I'm like, oh, it won't be like the, blah, blah. Within that first third, I smile. I have such a big smile on my face. I find myself grimacing, squinching my face, making it is so emotionally communicative, and I feel so much. It's so well made. It's crazy. And all those little details and nuances and the thing that make it so sucking is not something that we can quite talk about. But I really like this movie. I really like this film. I wish it is very, when I watch it, it feels kind of very of the world in the way that, like, I'm not struck by like a remarkably transcendent sensation, if that makes sense. But it like other films might, but it is so extremely compelling and full of love and good, and definitely at the very near or at the very top of my list for films that depict love. So I'm gonna give it a 4.5.
4.5. This makes John the winner.
Congratulations, John.
Congratulations, John.
Congratulations, John.
Thank you, guys. I would just like to say I'm so glad that you guys are.
Listen, it's no surprise. It's no surprise because congratulations, John, on recently getting engaged to
Christopher Nolan.
Okay, God.
Okay.
God.
Dude, I'm live streaming.
God damn it.
I'm live streaming straight to 4chan.
Oh, man.
Listen,
Congratulate
audience,
John.
we're back. India, we are back. I got married. I had a honeymoon. Thank you very much. But we're back. And I don't know who's doing that, but it's not. Whatever. People are doing farting sound effects. Okay. All right. We're back, baby. Bye. Bye.
Bye.
So base.
Stopping recording.